老师讲今天都没去，这是你学不打的吧？年纪都知道，年没对，多岁数？多岁数？每当俺们上来就是把这多岁就给写了，然后拉不到的话，没事了，你都是看到吧？现在希望写，没写把这pass上头上，then you are the student. Can you pass the lesson today? You do that, everybody. There you go. Smart someone there, the Indian student. Ah, no, no, no. Oh, 항상 나도 들어도 SFT도 다리 잡고요. 나 데이트다. 와, 이거 그냥 어디 배워 있네. 시에 기우상 라 냠도 레바나 가지고. 라야, 아주 레바 망치 공부한다. 배반 레바 공치 시인다 뭘 하고 해야 되나? 배반 레바 공치 시인다 넘난 Japanese level 공치시 부정상사 갖고 나한테 몇 번째 남면 다른 이제 장고로 장면 왔다. 수행하게 지금 연구다. 아니면 책책하나 이거. 내가 열리 구두다. 나 수행 구두 달리거리. 달라다. 감정 맞다. 수행 수행 구두다. 댄싱 수행, 드라마 수행, 생활 수행. 아 수행 들으지 봐도.
Hey, I like this suing.
Yeah, I know. Now we are getting like there. One day we will make computers in NASA, but takes time. You know. First we start from the suing. That's good. Thank you. I'm telling you, I'm going to sandwich do sandwich. Like palette che, Himalaya shabu. Speech che, jange che, talk che, anyam do ya she. Okay, the next.
So Kesang Marsren will be back with 2 more songs, but before that, we have Pema Dolma and Pema Yoko. So Pema Yoko is, she was in London for a while working as SFT's UK National Coordinator, and now she's here at the head office in London, in New York, and she is SFT's Deputy Director. And Padma Dolma is also from Europe, born and raised in Germany, and she has been at the forefront of the organizing and lobbying action in UK and Europe, and she's the campaigns and Europe director. So they will be up here to talk briefly, and then we will have Kesang Marsren. So stay with us.
Next, Abdullah Dijela Pema I'm coming to get ship from London. Now she works in New York station. England, you come along, London will be able to do it. I don't know how to do that, British. You watch them at a quarter. I don't know what you do.
I think that's not BBC, that's like Cockney.
Yeah, no. When they say water, I feel like something ice is coming. No? So solid. Pema Yola and the Unzi Shabane, New York. Ani Padma Dolma and the Europe director chair, Unzi chair, Ani Namto, Moran, Gizich, Lebu Sapa, Lebu Hadisama, this is the next Elan, Prani, Lebu, Hadisama, Lebu, Sama, Hadisama, later. And next, please give a big hand to Pema Yola and Padma Dolma.
So thank you so Wangdu and Digi for the nice introductions. I'm really happy to be here today. I came from London and I love the fact that I'm here with my international team, spending time together with Tendoka, Ugen, Pema Yoko, Dotseten, Lucy, Jordan, everybody at SFT International. But I'm also really excited to actually be here with you and meet all of you here in Queens, because I'm Tibetan, but I was born and raised in Germany, and in Germany there are not really any Tibetans. At least when I was growing up there were barely any Tibetans, and in my city there were no other Tibetans. So it's really great, and I'm really excited to be here in Queens, which is, you know, the famous heart of the Tibetan community in New York. So I'm excited to speak to all of you later. But nevertheless, when I was growing up, even though there weren't many Tibetans with me, I was going to the same protests, I was attending the same rallies, I was going to March 10, just like all of you. You know, I was standing outside the Chinese consulates, shouting the same slogans for a free Tibet, right? But all these years, I kind of felt small and powerless, right? Because we stand outside the Chinese embassies, and you know, I feel like they ignore us. You know, we want to see change for Tibet, but they don't even want to listen to us. But and at the same time, you know, China is so small. We are so few Tibetans, and then the crisis in Tibet is really heartbreaking. So, you know, all these years I've always felt a little small in comparison to the Chinese government. But really what I want to say, the campaigns that we do with SFT and the opportunity that I have as a Tibetan to, you know, work as campaigns director has really empowered me, that I feel the power is really in our hands to make change happen for Tibet. The power is, you know, in all of our hands. And one campaign, you know, at SFT we do many campaigns, and we always say, join this campaign, sign this petition. But one of the major ones that we did last year, I want to talk to you about now, is the campaign that we ran at the United Nations last year. And so, you know, you might know, or you might have noticed in the last years at the United Nations, there wasn't a lot of action coming from Tibetans. We weren't really at the UN, you know, and as a Tibetan, that is because maybe we don't think we belong there. We don't have any right there, right? At the United Nations, all the countries of the world, they have a seat representing their own country. But we Tibetans, we don't have a country, right? We can't get a seat. And some, you know, some world leaders, they don't recognize our right to have our own country, right? But what we realized with this opportunity that came up at the UN is that we as Tibetans, it's our right to be there. And we can, you know, really change something at the UN for Tibet. So that was a big opportunity, and we at SFT, we took it. China was being reviewed in a very high-profile review in front of the Human Rights Council in Geneva last year. So we knew this is, you know, this is the moment we need to make sure that Tibet is inserted in these conversations. So, you know, we set a really high goal for us. Not only is it difficult for countries to speak up against China, you know, because China is a real bully. But our goal was ambitious because we wanted countries at the United Nations publicly to speak up against China, but also to speak up about Tibet. You know, Tibet is almost like a taboo word for a lot of politicians and world leaders, but it was our goal. And so we sent a Tibet delegation after, you know, many years for the first time to the United Nations in Switzerland. And I was joined by young Tibetans from other organizations, from SHONU, from SFT France, and we also had other Tibetan supporters with us, and we were prepared, you know. We went on this journey, and I went multiple times to Switzerland, and we were all having, you know, all these important meetings with really high-level UN diplomats. We were speaking to people from France, Germany, Canada, USA, Namibia, Latin American countries, from everywhere. And so what that did is we gave those countries at the United Nations all the information they need so that they will ask the hard questions about Tibet at the UN. And this is what they did, right? And the result was really great. 13 countries actually explicitly spoke up against China over Tibet. And if you compare it to the last time China was reviewed at the UN, it's 3 times more countries who already spoke out, and they said exactly what we told them to say. So this is, you know, a really great success. But not only did we get these really tangible results from countries, to mention Tibet, but the Chinese government in China, they were embarrassed, they were shamed, and they were angry that we managed to embarrass them publicly at the United Nations. So what we see is, you know, we want to continue to build on this success, right? Because for some reason the Chinese government, the United Nations is very important for the Chinese government. They care what the whole world thinks about them. They want to be recognized, right? And so we realized the United Nations gives us a platform to directly challenge the Chinese government. Usually the space for us to directly speak to Xi Jinping or Chinese leaders is really small. They just say no. We stand outside the embassies, they don't want to listen. So, but at the United Nations, they really care. So, and we will continue to use the United Nations really as a platform to continue to ask those hard questions, And, I was sitting in rooms at the United Nations, oh yeah, there are actually some pictures, with, 300 Chinese people from the Chinese government from inside China who came to kind of make sure that we do not talk about Tibet, right? But they didn't succeed, and we were just 5 people. So yeah, this has been really inspiring for me to see this kind of success, and we will continue to shame the Chinese government at the United Nations. But also, I want to tell you, with the protests that we've all been doing and that we all do, since when we were little, the UN diplomats tell us that they know all the protests that you are attending, that we're attending, everything that we're asking for, they know, and also the Chinese government knows exactly, when we are protesting. So sometimes I know you're outside the embassy or the United Nations and you don't see those results in front of you. You don't see the Chinese government come out and talk to you. But just to let you know, all of our voices, all of our protests are really heard at the United Nations and also by the Chinese. So just please continue. But I also know, the last 4 years have been hard for all of us, or the last couple of years, with every news item, with every self-immolation that comes from Tibet. The situation is just harder for us Tibetans and supporters to not lose hope. Just last week, some of you I've met organized the protest outside the United Nations when 5 Tibetans were shot in Khartoum, right? So this is really hard. It's been really hard for all of us. And I know that a lot of the times we hear time is running out for Tibet. Time is running out, or time has run out for Tibet, right? And when I hear that, it makes me sad, and sometimes it makes me a little hopeless. And I'm sure some of you feel the same. But what I want to tell you is just look at how Tibetans in Tibet are fighting back. Look at their resistance in Tibet. We should look at people like Khenpo Khaltse and Tenzin Rinpoche, risking everything to stand up for the rights of the Tibetan people. We should look at those nomads who tell the Chinese government, no, this is our land, you cannot mine my country. We should look at people like Tsering Wase, who fearlessly continue to write about what the Chinese government is doing in Tibet. And also we need to look at, all these other millions of people in China, the Mongolians, the Uyghurs. You might have seen a picture of Rabia Kadir, who's the Uyghur leader, who's now our best friend at the United Nations. And Chinese people themselves, all of them are resisting and fighting back, right? So yes, time is running out, but time is not running out for Tibet. Time is running out for the Chinese government. And so I'm asking you, please continue to join our campaigns, engage with us, take action, because together we can really ensure that this moment will come faster and sooner and Tibet will be free.